All right, welcome back. It's been a while. This is me. It's enda. This is the weekend video. It's Friday afternoon. The session is well and truly underway in the US, and I thought I'd hop back in here and create a video. So it's been a couple of weeks, but some things have changed. Some things remain the same. Let's go through it and see what is appearing in the markets. I'm actually going to take a kind of a very wide angle view today. So, if you're willing to look at daily charts, you should hang around. Okay, so excuse me, what is happening in the FX? Let's go to the FX market first. This is Euro Dollar daily, and of course, it's been a couple of weeks since I did a video, so I'm obviously out of practice. I'm probably going to be tripping over my own tongue as the video goes on. So, in general, the thesis that I'm working with here in Eurodollar is we have a second wave correction underway. We'll probably get down towards what does that give us? 102, maybe 101, maybe even parity again, if all goes well here. As this pattern closes out, so it's a wave one high turning into a wave two low. Interestingly enough, the 62% retracement brings it back to pretty much 102 flat. So 102 would be a nice area for Eurodollar to kind of end up in the next few weeks. Basically, for most of 2024, we've done nothing. We've basically just ranged sideways. There's been a type of stepping motion down lower, but in general, we haven't gained or lost anything here. It's been a pretty hard market to trade. It's basically, I suppose, if you draw a straight line, it's gone sideways since January 23. So we can call that a solid 16 months at this point. So a correction is definitely a good explanation for the action. How you label that correction yourself will be up to yourself, but I think a second wave correction is probably a good way to view this. If you go to the 4-hour chart, you can see what I'm actually contemplating in terms of the internal action here of wave 2. So you can see there's the second wave scenario. It's dragged on much longer than I thought it would, but however, that's where we are. The internal wave of the 3-wave pattern, so that'd be wave B here of 2, suggests a possible triangle. So we've got an A, B, maybe topping out in a C, D, and E left to come. So a continuing sideways move over the next month would probably satisfy this. I was looking at the possibility that wave B had completed at the previous internal high here. We had a nice impulsive move lower after that. Turns out that was a C wave decline. And now we've grinded higher, and we just broke above that previous high there this week. So that count only got invalidated a couple of days ago. And here we are starting to lurch lower again, possibly into a wave D. And then that'll take up next week. If wave D has begun, it'll take up the next week to kind of play out. So the thesis in general here is that Eurodollar is not going to do a whole lot. We're going to continue to range in this, probably between this internal high here, between 110 and 106 to complete wave B, depending on, if we follow this particular scenario here, we probably complete wave B at around 108, and then head lower into wave C, maybe into June. Yeah, most likely into June at this point. But for next week, it's probably going to begin to drift lower into D wave decline. And again, it's going to be a 3-wave decline. It's going to be a choppy affair. And I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of successful trading done in here. But anyway, The overall scenario, I think, is working quite well here. A B wave triangle, unless we start to really push higher and accelerate, I think this wave count is going to stand for a while yet anyway. Okay, so that's euro dollar. The short-term patterns, these can change. Possible three-wave pattern, run up higher into wave C, and we turn lower into wave D next week. Okay, so cable. What is going on in cable? Well, if we have a second wave complete, this is the daily chart. If we have a second wave complete back in summer last year, actually, so last July. So since last July, at 131.40, we declined impulsively, and then we've just drifted sideways to higher since then. If we zoom in here a little bit, we might get a better picture on what's happening here. We have an initial impulsive decline, back into the early October lows around. This would be counted as wave one, and then we've kind of moved again correctively higher. There's a couple of ways you could probably view this. You could view wave two continuously under wave off that October low here. So we could have wave A up, wave B down, and now we're working on wave C. It's up for grabs. I think the action is just so, in general, corrective, but quite choppy over the last 6-month period that I'm finding it hard to nail it to a mast, to be quite honest. I do think that this is an impulsive decline. I think that we are still within a corrective, lower high scenario. So, we've built a left shoulder here in wave A. We're building a right shoulder here in probably wave two, and then we head lower into wave three. If that paradigm holds, then we should head lower into the summertime, into a third wave most likely. So here's the pound dollar. You can see a possible wave two correction completed after a triangle. Now again, that could be wave A up, and we're working on wave B right now. It's open to interpretation. That's the beauty, I suppose, it's the curse and the beauty of Elliott wave. So a reasonably impulsive decline, suggesting wave one. We have three waves up, suggesting wave two. And you can see that the pattern is rising into that wave, that upper trend line of that three-wave correction. Now, depending on where you take the wave A high, we have already either met that trend line or we will meet it pretty soon. So if we have a second wave, lower high, still building here, then we should move down into a third wave over the next week. And that's the outlook, I think, for cable in general. Okay, so let's move on. Now, dollar yen. Every time we've had a reasonably sustained decline over the last couple of years, that has been rebounded, retraced completely, and there's been no exception to that rule, I think, over the last couple of years. And I don't really have any reason to change the outlook here. I still think we're probably heading higher in a C wave. We're probably in wave 5 of that C wave, but I think there's probably a fair bit to run in this fifth wave just yet. We have 1, 2, wave 3 top in place. We have broken above that wave 3 high, so I suppose the minimum target for wave 5 has already been met, but I think the internal pattern suggests that we go higher still. And if we go to the our 4-hour count, you can see how that is manifesting itself, I suppose. The recent decline happened in 3 waves into 151.84. That was 3 waves down, complete wave C. We're calling for a rally. We got a rally in wave 1. That wave 1 top came last week. It took a while early this week. It took a while for that wave 1 to register the final high, and then we spilled lower this week. So at the moment, we have a possible wave 1 and 2 off a fourth wave low, so we could be beginning wave 5. If that's correct, then we should run higher definitely back out above 160. And depending on how high wave 5 goes, we could be talking high 160s before we complete this. The trend channel, let's just see how that standard Elliott wave trend channel will give us wave 2 and 4 extended from wave 3 high. So that definitely gives us 164 probably to complete wave 5 of 5. When we get up there, then we'll look at the possibilities from that point. But for the moment, I think dollar yen is continuing to show surprising strength, and I think we'll probably continue higher. Okay, so here is the stock market. I'm going to stick with the longer dated charts today. So let's just maneuver a little bit here. Now, the recent decline was retraced this week, so that was annoying. From my point of view, that was quite annoying. But the overall pattern in wave B, this being a B wave top, the orthodox top, I suppose, for the market would have been back in 2022. Then we had 3 waves down in wave A. We've had 3 waves up in wave B. We have wave C equaling wave B. We have wave C equaling wave A. So the market has broken out above that. We have the trend channel filled after a 3-wave rally. We have a pretty complete 5-wave pattern higher, even when you count this week's action. So, in general, the momentum top happened in the middle of wave C here. So that was back in December of 23. So 4 months ago at this point. Almost 6 months ago at this point. And we've been declining momentum ever since then. We had a kind of a reversal off the recent low, so we're coming up to test a lower high in momentum. We'll see how that fares out in the next couple of days. The decline into wave 1 has evaded for the moment, but even in terms of just a simplistic view of the market, in terms of the wider or the larger pattern here with 3 waves up, tagging the upper trend channel line, on a really extended MACD. So we had this seriously wide gap between the 50 and the 200 MACD. Came down to close it a little bit in the recent decline, but we've just basically flattened off the curve here. So are we in the process? Momentum seems to suggest that we are in the process of a reversal here. Pattern seems to suggest it. The proof is yet to be baked into that cake. So proof is in the pudding. Or the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So let's see if this market turns down again next week. The 4-hour count, you can see a wave 3 top, possible 3 waves down in wave 4. You could also count it from back here, maybe wave 3, wave A down, wave B up, and then wave C down. In general, but it's been retraced, so it's been confirmed as a correction. No matter how much I liked the idea that was the initial decline here, was initially working with this as an ABC pattern higher, and it worked quite well up until this week, and we broke out to a new high. So this is obviously a 1, 2, 3 pattern. So do we get wave 4 and 5 close out this pattern? Well, hopefully sooner rather than later in my book. Okay, let's go to crude oil. Or no, we'll go to gold. The daily count in gold. Possible 3rd wave rally in wave 5. So again, as usual, there is a few ways of viewing this pattern, but we are holding above that upper trend channel line. So the idea that this is a C wave higher is, losing strength. As well, it's not completely undeniable, but it's losing strength for as long as the price does stay above that upper trend channel line and uses it as support rather than a termination point. Then the more bullish outlook, I suppose, is is very much warranted here. The third wave scenario should break out into a 5-wave pattern. So we're probably quite close to even hitting that right now. So I would suggest that maybe wave 3 in green is getting close to completion now. And you can see by the 4-hour count here, we have wave 1 and 2, wave 1 and 2, wave 3, 4, and 5. So wave 5 of wave 3 is coming our way right now. At that point, then we'll probably turn to a kind of a weakness in the trade. Will trend down again, but it should find support around that 2250 level again, as it has in the last couple of days. So we've rebounded. It's not quite sure whether wave 4 is actually done here, or do we get a lower low in wave 4. It all depends on how you want to count that internal pattern here. We're butting up against the previous wave 3 high, so one might suggest that as long as that, or if that high breaks and we hold above that level, then we are into wave 5 already. But there's a little bit of room to maneuver on that idea here, and it all depends on how you count this particular retracement here. We'll see in the next couple of days whether we can get a breakout above wave 3 to confirm that that possible 4th wave is already in place. And if that's the case, then we move higher into wave 5 for longer. Crude oil, daily count, it's been a pretty impulsive looking sell-off so far off the recent high. We got a lower high. The trend channel is holding to the downside. We've priced back into that trend channel again. So we have a 5-wave decline in wave 1. Excuse me, a 3-wave correction in wave 2. And then a return to the downside again without confirming wave 3 just yet. So this could be wave 5 of 3, larger in terms of the larger pattern here. If we have wave 5 down underway, this will be wave 5 of wave 3. And what we would be doing right now would be an acceleration lower in wave 3 of 5 of 3. So potential, the downside potential is actually quite substantial, viewing it from that point of view. And if we do start to see a challenge of that wave 1 low there at $67 again, then this 3rd wave could really crack through that completely, and we could be finding ourselves down around $50 before this is complete, this 3rd wave down. Go to the 4-hour count. You can see possible ABC scenario here in wave 2, and we've turned down into an impulsive decline again. So the signals are, or the pattern is suggesting that a larger 3rd wave is now underway. The internal pattern here can be counted a few different ways, so we'll see how that pans out in the next couple of days. For the moment, it's been consolidating around the lows here. Interesting previous lows, 4th wave high, internal B wave high, a 3rd wave internal correction here, also formed at the same levels. So, left shoulder head and right shoulder possibility here, and we turn down into a 5th wave of wave. A 3rd wave of wave 3 coming pretty soon. Like I said, the internal pattern of the decline can be viewed a few different ways. This could be a wave 1, 2, and this could be a wave 1 and 2. For the moment, I'm kind of counting the whole thing as a contiguous decline, all down in wave 1. That's to be proven. So far, that pattern is working, but that thesis is yet to be proven. For next week, it looks like we're going to continue completing wave 1 down, and then we'll look at a lower high wave 2 later on next week. Okay, let's move on. The S&P, daily count on the S&P. We did push out to a new high this week. Has been, a very slight new high. The recent decline in the S&P, I suppose if I was being honest here, it was more impulsive than I want, or more corrective than I wanted it to be at the time. But as long as the scenario continued to work, well then I suppose I could fool myself on that one. But the market broke out to a new high this week. The internal pattern of that new high is looking promising so far. But overall, let's say on the daily count, we still have that three-wave rally to a new B-wave high. So we've got the three-wave rally out to a new high in a B-wave should be counteracted in due course by a C-wave decline. So I suppose we're looking at the rest of the year here down in wave C. We have the fourth wave count suggesting maybe we're drawing close to a fifth wave in wave C of B. And the hourly count can parse that out reasonably well within a channel, a possible five-wave pattern higher. Maybe we're going to correct into wave 4 and then pop to a new high in wave 5. All depends on how you view this internal correction here. Or sorry, the internal layout here. But for next week, it looks like we're going to correct within this fifth wave. That would be a fourth wave within wave 5 and then run higher into wave 5 of 5 later on. If we start to look particularly weak again, if we start to break down, especially if we break that 4,900 level again, then we're back to the races, I think, for a topping scenario again. Okay, here is silver. Now, at the risk of being a party pooper, at the risk of being, eternally downbeat, we do have a very clear alternate pattern here, rather than the endless new highs, endless bullish run up or endless bull run in silver. Precious metals are going to the moon. It's an inflation hedge, it's a deflation hedge, it's an uncertainty hedge, it's a volatility hedge, it's the everything hedge, it's the dollar hedge, it's the market hedge, it's the Bitcoin hedge. There's always every reason in the world at a top to buy precious metals. It's always very interesting. Gold, silver, nonetheless. Every reason in the world to buy these metals from those who want to buy these metals. I just don't fit that mold, I'm afraid. And I do think there is a very viable alternate count here, which kind of accounts quite well for the very long drawn out upside pattern here. It's quite a shallow upside pattern, to be quite honest. Punctuated by severe declines within the pattern. So there's every chance that we have a possible three-wave pattern running higher in wave B also, just like the stock market. Right, we've come out to a new high of recent, not a new all-time high, but a new high of late. Even today, we're at a new high today. So that's happening. Can't deny that. But the internal pattern here does suggest that there is another way of viewing this action here, and that would be a three-wave correction higher in wave B. We've punched out above the upper trend channel line here in a kind of a throwover scenario. So euphoria brings throwover. There's nothing new about that. Does this top out and reverse? If it tops and reverses, and we break, let's say, internal low here about $26 again, then we are veering dangerously towards this alternate count here. So, and if that's the case, we could have a pretty catastrophic decline ahead of us in silver. So just keep that in mind. I think it's worth keeping in mind, to be quite honest. So we have a possible, if we're going to stick with the bullish outlook here, possible wave 2 in place, working on wave 3, but we may have cashed in everything that we can do on that one now, because this moment in time, this rally is looking really, really stretched here. And there's nothing to say. Well, even in the bullish scenario, we should probably see a reversal in a second wave. But from the longer term viewpoint, we're looking really quite stretched to the upside here, and we may turn lower for longer, depending on which way this spins. But for at least for the next week, we should expect a decline into a second wave, I think, and that should bring us back probably towards 2750 maybe, and that will kind of um, I think that would probably satisfy that second wave. At that point, if we do start to build a base around 2750, that's probably a good time to look at going long again on silver. That'd be just a suggestion. Uh, and that I think that closes out the markets that I want to talk about, to be quite honest. Um, that's the markets that I cover on the nightly update. So if you're interested in the getting deeper and diving into the short-term chart, you should probably check out bullwaves.org. And if we do get that big reversal in the stock market, it would be very interesting time to come and join the website. But for the moment, I usually leave every weekend update with the good news, and that good news is the good news that I was told as a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ to tell everybody. We are all sinners, me chief among sinners. And to sin basically means to miss the mark. We have missed the mark of holiness that God has set for humanity. That God requires perfection, and humanity is not perfect. No doubt about that. Just look around, look over your shoulder, and look in the mirror. We are all, far, far, far from the mountain of holiness that God is. But He did create a way for us or for Him to reconcile us back to Him, and He did that Himself through Messiah. The arm of the Lord, the righteousness of God. That is the Messiah, and it's the typologies, the prophecies, the hinting, and the hope throughout all the Hebrew scriptures was that a Messiah was going to come and sort out the issue that people have with God, and that is, the issue we have is that we are unholy and God is holy, and we cannot have fellowship with God. It's just not going to happen. We need to be holy. And in order to do that, we have to take care of the sin problem. And in order to do that, there has to be a right and a righteous sacrifice to take care of that sin problem. And that came through Messiah, the arm of the Lord, the root of David, the Holy One of Israel. And Israel itself was just picked as a microcosm of humanity. Every nation has failings. Every human has failings, and Israel is no different. But they were singled out by God to carry the line of the Messiah into humanity, and that's why they have been special ever since creation, and that's why God has come down hard on them ever since He picked them. So they brought the Messiah in, Jesus of Nazareth, born in Bethlehem. He born sinless because he did not have a human father. God Himself came down through Mary, took on flesh, lived the perfect life, which was required by the law of Moses. You have to live the perfect life, and Moses himself said, "He who lives by these laws shall live." Or sorry, he who. Why don't I have that on the? I have it on the tip of my tongue, but I can't recall it. He who does them shall live, I think is what he said. So he who does the law shall live. And there was only one person who ever did, that is, fulfill the law. That was Jesus. He lived the perfect life. And He lived. God came down, paid for our sins, and offered that payment to us in full. But it's for you potentially. You have to actually accept it. It's a free gift. But the thing about a gift is you have to accept it. And so many people actually reject it. And that is the sad thing. I mean, if you reject the gift, then you go into eternity on your own without God. And we all know the place where that can be carried out. The place without God is a place of torture and suffering. So I would urge you to accept the free gift, to look at the story of the Messiah and say, did this person fulfill all the prophecies? Yes, yes, yes. Dig deeper, ask God, show you if this is true, and it is, and God will, because God is faithful, and Jesus said that everyone who knocks, the door shall be opened. If you seek, you shall find. So you will find Jesus Christ if you actually do seek. So I would urge you to do that. Accept the Messiah before it's too late, before he calls an end to this age of his grace. And that is that. Admit you're a sinner. Believe Jesus is God's son. He dies on the cross and rose on the third day. And then he is your God. And he will stand in for you. And he will cover you with his righteousness. And therefore you can have a relationship with God. You can be back in right standing with God again. You can have fellowship with the Creator through the Messiah. And that's the way it was always supposed to be. And that is that. Until next week, hopefully. Or if you come and join the website, I'll see you tonight and every other weeknight. Goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you there.